Hello, this is a second video. How to create a class that has that you can do an instantiation. In other words, you can create an instance of the class. Let's get some things together. I have a project started. Under that project, I created referencing Java 1.7 or Java 7. I created a new class called rectangle.java. Nothing to do with the AWT rectangle. It's just my own class name. Could have called it any class name. And it's under the shapes package. So we've talked a million times about the public static void main, the entry point for an application or for the program. And we kind of talked about how to instantiate a class, how to create an instance of the class. So this is all in one, if you will. This has I'll walk you through each part of this. Remember the packages, shapes. The class name is rectangle, and the beginning and ending of the class is here to here. And the class has two attributes. Excuse me. Both are set to 0 because they're both integers. One's width and one's eye height. And I like to prefix I know this is just a standards thing, but the variable name with the kind of data type it is. So if I see this, a million lines down the road, I might say this is an integer, just as a heads up. Plus, a lot of times things like width and height are reserved words, and you don't want to trip over any reserved words. All right, so this is nothing new. Again, the entry point for the application. Let's skip over these two lines just for now, and let's look at these next two. Public rectangle, parentheses, parentheses, and then bracket, bracket. This really doesn't do anything. That's a no arg constructor that I haven't filled out yet. This is called stubbing a method. Stubbing means I just give it the method signature, which is nothing, right? Notice that there's no void, there's no static, there's no int, there's nothing. This is a constructor for a class. The next one is also a rectangle method. Rectangle there, but it has parameters. So this is what's called an overloaded method. And constructors are typically overloaded. You have a constructor that has no arguments and a constructor that has one argument, or this one happens to have two arguments. So what happens is when I call the constructor with two arguments, I'm going to pass over two things, two integers, and it's going to set the width and height for that instance. This dot is a keyword to set it for that instance only. If I called multiple instances of the rectangle, in other words, the way the object works is the object can be instantiated many times. Let's say I called the rectangle method 3 times, rectangle 1, 2, and 3. I can have width and height set to different values. Okay, for each one of those instances of the rectangle. Now, the other thing is I have a method out here called getArea. Pretty simple. It's going to take this dot width times this dot height and return that as an integer when getArea is called. So let's see how this works. Back to the void main. Let's take a look at this line right here. Rectangle, this is the data type, which is the class type. Rec1, that's now going to be my instance of the rectangle, is going to be called rec1. New, which means the new is it tells it to, hey, go look for the constructor for that class, and it's going to find both of those constructors, the rectangle with no arguments and the rectangle with two arguments. And then it looks at the two arguments that I have, 22 and 12, and says, okay, this means I want to call that, and passes over 22 and 12 for width and height, sets the values, and returns. So when this is complete, rec1 is going to have two attributes, id width and id height, set to 22 and 12. When I call getArea, getArea doesn't pass anything. It's going to use the this for getArea, and it's going to take 22 times 12 and hopefully pass me back 264, which is 22 times 12. I'm going to put a breakpoint right here, a toggle breakpoint. I'm going to run this in debug, and we'll see what happens. I think it should do what I think it should do. Change my perspective. Okay, it'll sit right on there. I give it a step. Did I do a step out? I did a step over. Okay, so let me stop that. I want to do a step into. I want to show you exactly what's going on here. So I'll do that again. Sorry about that. Step into. Okay. Notice that it stepped into that constructor. It's passing over 22, 12. I did that by just hovering over the values of the variable. It's going to run this. Now I call get area. Get area, it knows that the width is 22 for this, for rec 1's this, and 12 for this. It's going to print it out, 264, and we're all good. Let me show you if I wanted to create a second triangle or a second rectangle. Let me switch back to the Java perspective. I'm going to do a second rectangle, and I'm going to call that rec 2. Okay, I'm going to call it 10 and 15, rec 2, and rec 2. Let's see what happens. And I always like to, and under the console, we'll go to the clear. I right click and do clear just so I know I'm not tripping over last iterations. I don't want to debug, I'll just run through it. Let's see what happens. 264 and 150. Look at that. So this definitely goes with the instance of the variable that I'm spitting out. This rec1, you could call it 10 million times. The instance, the object type says you can create as many instances as your memory can handle. Let's put it that way. Cool. I mean, this is pretty much as easy as it gets. You have attributes. In this case, we declared 2 public attributes. I've got 2 public constructors. I've got a public static void main, which is the entry point for the application. I've got get area, which is another public method. We'll talk later about how to make these modifiers the right way. In other words, you probably want to have that as a private attribute, and we'll see what that means if you have a private versus public. Don't worry about that now. Just know it's as simple as 2 constructors, 1 method, 2 attributes, and main. Very good. Thank you very much for watching this.